So is resentment basically just disguised anger?
I'd put it a bit differently. Resentment is a lack of capacity. You see, kindness is also a kind of capacity. I once said at an event that there are tons of tools we can use to develop ourselves. And one of them is the ability to notice the good, to think and speak creatively, to express what we actually want, and to wisely distribute our energy based on the 595 principle. And it's not just about relationships, it's about business, purpose, and fulfilling the missions we came here for. And let's face it, if you want to truly achieve something, you'll have to stay open. But if you're just looking to get by, then yeah, you can lie to each other in your relationships. Sure, you won't have money, you won't feel fulfilled, you'll feel numb, but you will live out your family life and might even tell others that it's love, though in reality, it'll just be a performance of love. Because love, strange as it sounds, is a clash between the past and the future happening in the now. And if we've truly lived through the past, meaning we were honest, sincere, open, curious, without false values or fake tolerance or people-pleasing, then the new enters our life easily. But if we're convinced something new will come through a certain door, and in reality is coming from a completely different place, we'll keep trying to open the wrong door while the new is already arriving elsewhere. That mismatch creates tension and difficult life situations. That's why when Nicole and I were discussing all of this, we realized that your intention can be whatever. It comes from a surplus of emotion, an inner state, but expectations must remain undefined. Because when we expect something specific, we end up doing harm to ourselves and to the world. And when we expect nothing at all, we do even more damage. But when we're open to the unknown, and at the same time know how we want it to feel inside. Because nothing materializes through thoughts or images, it all comes through sensations and emotions. That's what creates manifestation. And as we know, the woman represents matter, the planet Earth itself. So when we feel something deeply, whether we're men or women, we channel the energy of blessing that makes things happen here, on Earth and in the matrix.
And where does that blessing come from?
It comes from the presence of acceptance and agreement, like we were just talking about, which ultimately leads to love. And love, first and foremost, should manifest through the interaction between man and woman. Only then can we begin to understand all those other aspects related to the request. For example, we might create something and say, this is worth $1 trillion, and then get upset when no one buys it, but we made it the way we wanted. So what's the issue? When we set a price, and remember, money reflects capacity, the value we assign must contain as much energy as we could get by spending that amount on something else with a similar energetic charge. Let's be specific. If for $1 trillion we can buy more pleasure, happiness, fulfillment, potential, travel, or anything else than what we created, then we priced it wrong. So what's the principle here? When we're in a state of acceptance, agreement, and love, the price, or rather the value, is not defined by the potential of the thing itself. Maybe we created a microchip that turns into a quantum computer, but we can only sell it for the amount that matches our own internal state of acceptance, agreement, and love as we are in this body, in these relationships. And once we receive the return from the price we've set, we're able to spend it, and our inner capacity will be enough for that value to be realized and experienced by us as a state of happiness and satisfaction for men and deep bliss for women. And if someone lacks that inner alignment, even with great intuition, they'll still only price even a quantum computer in proportion to their own capacity for acceptance, agreement, and love. Add about 12% on top. That covers personal growth and the energetic cost of evolving, transforming habits, mindset, and ways of interacting in relation to what they've received. But if someone sets the price too high, a couple of things can happen. First, no one buys it. Second, someone buys it. but it starts destroying the person from the inside because those three elements are out of sync. You know what they say, if you want to know someone, give them money or power. Sure, give them both. But I'd say you could just as well give a person a lot of information, a lot of talent, skills, status, recognition, and creative potential. And if a person lacks acceptance, alignment, and love, which are formed in the way we actually need them, and that can only happen through the interaction between man and woman, then no real breakthrough is possible. You can't create a breakthrough in an all-male environment, and you can't create one in an all-female environment either. And the most surprising thing, and Nicole and I are speaking from experience here, is that once you reach a certain level, you need children in order to keep evolving. Otherwise, you start to regress. You need to have kids so they can become the very possibility that helps you move forward. Let's be honest. There are no men stronger than women. I'm saying that as a man, and I took a long time to test and verify it. But here's the thing. It comes down to whether a woman chooses to recognize her strength or not, because she can just as easily use that strength to destroy herself and the world. How? By constantly adjusting to others, tolerating too much, fearing, doubting, acting from anxiety, avoiding responsibility, making excuses, and that's incredibly harmful. It's deeply destructive to the world.
Let's get specific. There are no men stronger than women because everything in this world, about 80%, 88%.
88%, yes.
So it's kind of a given.
Let's start with the fact that even those 88% of masculine energy can only be activated with a woman's blessing. That's the twist.
And that blessing is her
agreement.
Lightness, agreement. Joy from life.
There's an essential principle here. When a man does something, takes action, he has no right to associate himself with that act. Like, I gave you this watch, I gave you that bouquet, I gave you this ring, I gave you this money. That I needs to be crossed out. Because in truth, it was the woman who gave it to herself through the man. Her internal permission system made it possible.
Okay, so maybe you can help clarify this for all of us. When does a woman give something to herself directly, and when does she do it through a man? Like, she literally buys herself something, or a man brings it to her as a channel. What's the difference between those two actions?
It's a huge difference.
I mean, it's awesome when a woman earns money and buys herself a nice handbag.
Absolutely. But what we're talking about here is the optimal scenario, the top floors, so to speak. Every level has its own pros and cons. For example, people who live with millions of dollars, that's one way of life, but they don't have the right to live like people who have $10,000 a month. If someone has millions, they can't live like they only have 10,000, because that creates a kind of imbalance that breaks the system of the world. And then people start saying things like, look at Ford, or the founder of IKEA, or Facebook.
Zuckerberg.
Yes. And they say they wear ripped jeans. They allow themselves to live this way or that. Buffett, for instance, drives an old car, lives in an old house, doesn't renovate. These are function people. They don't match the level of wealth they hold, and that leads to serious distortions.
So what are these functions for? Why are they allowed, and what are they compensating for?
They're not compensating. They're mostly just reflecting us, who we are, with all our distorted values. You have to understand, whenever someone starts making black and white declarations, this religion is right, that one is wrong, or this nationality is better than that one, or our country should always come first. Those are false values. And it's those false values that lead to the existence of figures like Ford, the founder of IKEA, Zuckerberg, or Buffett. And there are many more like them we could name, because our true core value is the planet Earth. We came here for Earth, and the moment we do something for the planet, we naturally find ourselves in balance. But the second we prioritize our country, our religion, our company, or even science, we create imbalance, a massive imbalance. And that's why today the world isn't really run by democracy or the people, but by bureaucrats who aren't even elected by us. They're just functions. And the reason for that is simple. We've set our priorities all wrong. What should be at the top? and this is the interesting part, is the natural and balanced state of the planet Earth, and then living for the well-being of Earth, because we are residents of this planet, we create the right conditions. And the condition for Earth to thrive is happy, fulfilled human beings. And since the holders of values are children, that means we need to make sure the planet Earth, the physical matter, the feminine principle, which are practically the same thing, exists in a state of love, so that in the first 3 years of life, children receive enough love, tenderness, kindness, communication, and just simple hugs. What does that give us? It creates the effect that these children will be ready to multiply the good on earth and improve its quality. Because in that crucial early period of their lives, they received enough of the earth's energy, matrix energy, feminine energy. In other words, they adapted to it. We'll be speaking in layers with depth and dimension, gradually moving through ideas. The reason for that is words are linear and limited, and we need to use them to model and illustrate concepts that are far more expansive than what can be captured through a sequence of spoken words. We're talking about describing objects, events, and interactions, including neural connections, to create for you a fundamentally important understanding and feeling in the form of volume, not just flat knowledge. So when our children have received enough feminine maternal love, they become a real value to the planet, the matrix, and to feminine energies that might begin to arrive here in even greater volumes. Because the Earth itself survives by receiving energy from other civilizations. So now we're going to start with a broader, more theoretical topic. When we talk about matter, we reach this foundational understanding. As we go deeper into physics, we find the cell. Inside the cell are molecules, then atoms, then atomic nuclei with electrons. And if we look even deeper, we find energy. And beyond that, information. So essentially, what we perceive as volume is actually emptiness. But due to our limited perception of reality, we interpret these things as material objects. That's all. And now we come back to the point. Once our children have received enough maternal love, we start viewing things from a completely different level. We know they'll have strong and stable health. They'll be able to fully realize the purpose they came here for. And we know for sure they won't be prone to disease or to harming others or the planet. That's just how it works. Women gave them love, and we created the conditions for women to be able to give that love. And that's what creates these children. Children who are capable of generating immense amounts of energy for the planet. And Earth breathes and lives only through the energy that flows in from other civilizations. After all, this planet is an artificially created life form sustained by the attention of those who came here, the souls and beings who incarnated as humans and shaped this world. We're taking the long way around so we can describe naturally and step by step the whole structure of what's really happening, so that at each level it makes sense. We're starting with the fundamentals. Why is it, for example, that when something happens to a grandparent, we feel one way, but when it happens to a child, it's a totally different reaction? Or why do we perceive adults one way and children completely differently? If we're even a little bit sensitive, children make us smile. Why? Because they hold more divinity than we do. They haven't yet been burdened by beliefs, limitations, dogmas, and false values the way we have. They haven't been conditioned or blocked. And the more we burden them with distorted values that divide everything into right, wrong, good, evil, or acceptable, unacceptable, the more we block their essence. What should come first? The feeling of kindness, gentleness, love, sincerity, openness, humor, lightness, flexibility, and curiosity, the qualities that a mother pours into her child up until the age of 3. We'll talk more about how this continues later. But the point is, children shape our worldview. The world exists because there are children. And when something bad happens to them, we grieve more deeply than when it happens to adults.
And yet children come into this world as gods, whole, complete beings, at least until puberty.
Exactly.
So why does the mother still need to fill them with energy? And what kind of energy?
That's the interesting part. The mother actually holds masculine energy. And that's why she fills them with true information. As I've said before, woman and mother are the same thing. Because just like she fills her children, she also fills her man. Just like she fills the home, just like she fills
Her own processes too.
She fills everything. She is the foundation of creation itself.